Welcome back to Facts and Fictions, the Cozy Book Club podcast where we talk about the books we're reading and the thoughts we have on them. My name's Morgan.
My name's Desiree, and this week we have a Brief Encounters episode where we discuss short form writing. And this week we're focused on the Pulitzer Prize. Morgan did a lot of research for this episode, so she'll be running it, but I'm excited to learn all about the Pulitzer.
I was too. It's always been something that's kind of on my periphery. I feel like everyone's aware of the Pulitzer Prize, but the New York Times had an article just kind of on the books that won and who was nominated. It's like I should probably learn a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I love that.
Have you read any sought out reading Pulitzer Prize books in the past, or is it like me where it's like kind of periphery?
Yeah, definitely just on my periphery. I did read last year's, and I read it because it was the Pulitzer winner and I had heard so many great things about it, but I really think that's the only one that I
was it
James.
Okay. We did the article with the nominees and everything. I kind of deep dive on Joseph Pulitzer himself because you hear the Pulitzer Prize and you're thinking for accomplishments. I'm like, who was this guy? What was his background? And it was actually a little bit shocking. He was very chaotic. He was an immigrant from Hungary. And he came to the United States when he was 17 after a bunch of other foreign militaries rejected him. He joined our military and very quickly went from being a 17-year-old immigrant in the military to a 22-year-old state representative for Missouri. Let me double check if it was state representative or congressman. I might have said that wrong. State representative. So at 22, which was 3 years under the requirement. So that was kind of his foot door to building the empire he had. So he was a state representative and a reporter at the same time. And as a reporter, they say he was working 18-hour days, which I feel like that's not possible when you're also a state representative. Mm-hmm. But he was very gifted and he spoke German. And so with the money he was making as a representative, he bought a failing German newspaper. And that was his very first newspaper he bought. And he eventually scaled very quickly. So he bought multiple newspapers, had a lot of success with them, and started to merge them into one. And he did all of that in St. Louis, so not too far from us, until he sought out bigger things and moved to New York City and bought a failing newspaper there. And that's where things ramped up.
Wow.
I did forget to say, one of the most notable things about him as a politician is one of his political rivals he shot and still got to maintain his position as a politician. He didn't go to jail. It didn't hurt his career. He got in a heated argument at an event, and his opponent called him a damned liar. So he left, he grabbed his gun, he came back, and he shot his opponent. But
to death? Or
no, because his opponent tackled him. He was aiming, and then the opponent, whose name was Edward, was like, no. And so he just got shot in the knee, and then Joe got a head wound. And somehow that didn't help his career, which is just shocking to me. Because today, imagine a politician doing that.
Whoa.
That would blow up all over the internet. And
yeah.
they would go to jail for forever. But I was shocked by that.
Jeez, I'm speechless over here.
When I was reading it, I'm like, is this real? It was. I fact checked. That was all still in his early 20s. And then after that, his little reign as the politician ended, he moved to New York to buy the newspaper. So circling back to there. And he was kind of the inventor of yellow journalism, do you remember learning about that at all?
Mm-mm.
So when I read that, it was stored somewhere way back in my brain, but I didn't know what it was. And that was basically, he was the forefather of what modern day we would call clickbait. Just the sensationalized sex sells, drama, salacious articles. That was all him. And William Randolph Hearst, who is also, Hearst Publishing.
Yes. Yep.
Those two were big rivals in New York City and basically just trying to one up each other the entire time. The most scandalous with lies. And are you familiar with Newsies, the musical?
Mm-mm.
Okay, there's a musical called Newsies, and that was based on how poorly both Joseph Pulitzer and William Hearst treated their newspaper boys, salesmen. So in 1899, there was a big strike with the newsboys. It started out as violent, where all of the little newspaper boys who were selling the newspapers for both Joseph Pulitzer and his opponent, William Hearst, they said, you aren't treating us well, you aren't paying us well. And so if they saw anyone else selling the newspapers while they're on strike, the Newsies would go and beat the tar out of those people. And then eventually it turned peaceful and it worked. They ended up getting paid more, but that was such a big turning point for child labor, how we treat children who are working back in 1899. And again, that was Joe Pulitzer of Pulitzer Prize was not treating his children well. He was not his lifetime the dude I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be very prestigious, very academic, maybe have a few doctorates, things like that. But he was just a business mogul trying to make as much money as possible, no matter like who he had to step on the way. And that's how he lived his life. And it wasn't until he was like near his death that he started to kind of reflect on the impact that all of his life choices had had. So then all of a sudden he's like, you know what, journalism is important. And I've kind of like bastardized this entire, everyone was taking after him with yellow journalism. Like, we're going to write what's, even if it's truth. And he kind of took a step. It's like, okay, let's see, like, can we fix this? And at this point, he is incredibly wealthy. So he's living on a yacht because he is like actively dying. He's gone blind. He's very sensitive to sound, where like the sound of like a slamming door would send him into a rage. So he's on a yacht with like his medical team. And he, in his will, the two things he wants to establish to kind of undo all of the harm that he did was first a journalism school at Columbia. Very cool. And then second was the Pulitzer Prize. So that was like with his money after his death, they funded both of those things. So in his life, he had massive contributions to journalism, but not necessarily positive contributions. And then it's crazy because in his death, that's where like all of the positivity. And I look back on it and it's like, how long did it for the reputation to reverse? Because it's like the people who were, while he was alive, probably were pretty skeptical of the Pulitzer Prize. I feel like I would have been.
Absolutely. And what year did he pass away?
Let me
Do you remember?
double check. 1911.
1911.
So
okay.
he died in 1911 on his yacht in the harbor of Charleston. And the first Pulitzer Prize was awarded in 1917.
It's just fairly quick turnaround.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe he had some of the foundation built before his death. But yeah, he was an dude, and he wasn't all bad. Nobody's all bad. So he was like a strong advocate for immigrants. And he started out his political career as a Republican and then pivoted and ended his political career as a Democrat, which we love to see.
He went through a lot of changes in his life. When you said that he obviously went to New York to purchase the newspaper. Is it one we would know?
That is an excellent question. It wasn't one that I recognize the name of, but I don't know if he changed it when he bought it. So the New York World, he bought in 1883. And I wasn't familiar with that, but I could see him taking that and like changing the name. And fun fact, he is the grandfather-in-law of Lily Pulitzer, which I never connected to.
I never did either. And when I read that, I'm like, well, why didn't I?
Yeah, I know.
Or at least questioned it. Because
it's such a distinct last name.
Yeah.
His grandson married Lily Pulitzer.
Okay, so because I was curious about the paper itself. The paper, so after Joseph Pulitzer stepped down in 1907 from the paper, the control of it was passed down to his sons. And then it faced increasing financial pressures and competition. And in 1931, the Pulitzer family sold the newspaper. It was then subsequently merged with the New York Telegram to form the New York World Telegram, which I'm not familiar with. I'm not sure if that's still an active paper or not, but that's interesting.
It's interesting. I would have thought of like the legacy he built on it, that it would still be like one of the big names.
Yeah.
But I mean, there has been a lot of time.
Yeah. And a lot of very tumultuous for all the newspapers.
Yeah, definitely.
So this year's Pulitzer Prize winner for fiction is Angel Down. And this book is one single sentence. And it's about private serial bagger managed to survive the unspeakable horrors of the Great War through his wits and deception, swindling fellow soldiers at every opportunity. But his survival instincts are put to the ultimate test when he and 4 other grunts are given a deadly mission. Venture into the perilous no man's land to euthanize a wounded comrade. What they find amid the ruined battlefield, however, is not a man in need of mercy, but a fallen angel, seemingly struck down by artillery fire. This celestial being may hold the key to ending the brutal conflict, but only if the soldiers can suppress their individual desires and work together. As jealousy, greed, and paranoia take hold, a group is torn apart by their inner demons, threatening to turn their angelic encounter into a descent into hell. Angel Down plunges you into the heart of World War I and weaves a polyphonic tale of survival, supernatural wonder, and moral conflict. And it got rave reviews. But yeah.
That sounds so incredibly intense. I feel like
Very.
My pulse was raising as you're reading that.
Yeah, and the cover is also quite intense.
Also intense. I like the cover.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. There's obviously always speculation, and I had seen his videos, and not one of them mentioned that book. So
Really?
I think it was.
I love that. Like
it
a
took
little
everyone by
blind side.
surprise. Yep.
That is awesome. So you said you read last year's winner,
I did.
which I have not, but it's like based on, right, the Huckleberry Finn.
It's from the view of the boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. When I was like little summary, it was making me think of like high school, which I know we've talked a lot about. But Huckleberry Finn was it wasn't my top 3, but I think it was my 4th favorite one I had to read. It's like required reading.
Yeah. I really recommend. I have James actually, so you can borrow. It's a beautiful book, and I had never read anything by Percival Everett. It took me quite a while to get through, but it's really beautiful, and it made me want to read The Trees. That may be incorrect. That he's well known for, and so maybe we could read that in the future. But that was probably the best book I read last year.
Oh my gosh!
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and that one I think was expected.
That one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever read in the episode, or was that before we started recording?
I haven't. I mean, I probably have, but I thought them out. It's like, when I was like, when this outline is, I need to start doing that every year, reading a few of the nominees and it's just something I've always like had in the back of my mind, like, oh, Pulitzer Prize, pretty cool, like very prestigious. And I've cared beyond that. And I don't know why I haven't cared. And now all of a sudden, after doing like this deep dive into Joseph Pulitzer, I do deeply care, which is crazy because that's just like a very quick, like 180. But yeah, now I am eager to diving in a little bit more. I thought it was interesting too, looking through the categories, like the graphic novels, which I didn't realize that was a category, but I think that's great because a lot of people have gotten really into like the graphic novels. I haven't yet, but I want to. My brother is really into graphic novels.
Is he?
Yeah. So he's got like shelves and shelves. I think sometimes when I'm over, they'll just pull a few books off, and most of them are like the graphic novels. So I could ask him I do think we have different vibes.
He likes horror, doesn't he?
He likes horror. He likes like anime. I do think it's like always been on like my list, but I haven't time research what type of graphic novel I would like. In my head, there's like a prejudice where I'm like, I don't think I like that, but I've never read one. So I need to get past that. But
I've never really frayed into graphic novels, but I will say when I go to the bookstores and stuff, I do notice that there's quite a few remakes of like popular books, like probably more on like a teen side of like books from our time that are remade into graphic novels.
Oh, that's cool. I've never seen that.
Yeah. So I have seen those, so that those pique my interest.
That is interesting.
Do we think that graphic novels have graphics? But I wonder why they're becoming more popular. Is it the like influence of like manga and stuff, or is it people need graphics to get through a book?
I feel like it might be a combination of both, like influence of like the anime and manga, but also like many people are so visual, and that's how many people like grew up consuming their media in a very visual way. So like accompanying that with like literature, I think is a very interesting combination. I deeply want to find one. If anyone has any recommendations on a graphic novel, I want to start dabbling into that realm. Just never have, and I need to kind of step out of my comfort zone. I always like my safety genre of books, I feel, and I want to keep doing that.
I think that's great. I think that it's always good to try out different genres.
Yeah. So that might be something I start looking into then. Just trying to find one or two that pique my interest. Maybe I'll go to a bookstore. I feel like that'll be a better way than doing it online.
Yeah.
So
quick note back to Pulitzer Prize for a second, because I was just scrolling through the previous year's awards in fiction. 2012, there's no award given.
Really?
There were like nominations, but no award was given. So now I'm interested to look into that, and why was there no award given? No one was
like, these are not up to our standard.
Maybe I'll look it up right now.
That's like heart shattering.
I've also read a few Pulitzer Prize winners. I didn't realize that they had won. All the Light We Cannot See. I've read that. It's a very good book. And then Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. Wow. Okay. So the Pulitzer Prize Board did not award it for fiction in 2012 because none of the 3 finalists received a majority vote from the board members. The lack of an award caused significant controversy and shock throughout the literary world, primarily because the Pulitzer's own 3-member fiction jury had formally submitted this stellar trio of books for the final selection. However, the board, which holds the ultimate voting power, could not reach majority consensus for any of the nominees.
Oh, geez.
This marked the first time since 1977 and only the 11th time in the history of the award that no fiction prize was given. Because the board's discussions remained confidential, no further official explanation for the split vote was ever detailed. That is super interesting. However, when they say It was only the 11th time in the history of the award. That's more than I would have guessed.
Same. Thought like maybe the third time.
Yeah.
Like if that.
Yeah. So, wow. So an award is not guaranteed.
I feel like I should have done so much more research because now I'm thinking like, how do you get on the board? They should bring us on as like honor.
Actually, when I was doing my own little research, I know you were kind of running this episode, but I did a little bit of looking into the Pulitzer. And there was this article written by the user Jansplaining on Substack, and it was called "The New Pulitzer Prizes for Books Flunked Ethics." And it's directly tied to this year's announcement of awards. The author argued that the Pulitzer Board tainted the 2026 Fiction Awards by failing to disclose serious conflicts of interest. One of the fiction jurors, David Truer, is an editor-at-large for Penguin Random House imprint and is himself published by another PRH imprint. And he sat on the jury that named as a finalist, auditioned by Katie Kitamura, who's also a PRH book. The board identified Truer as a writer, editor, and professor without disclosing his publishing ties. So it was kind of a critique on the institution of the Pulitzer. I suppose it would be really hard to get people on the board who are proficient and professional and well-suited to be a decider of the prize without having any ties to the business of it all.
Interest feels inevitable if you're that intertwined in the literary world.
But apparently it caused waves. And so I guess I don't know what lengths they go to prevent things like that.
That's super interesting. I feel like the ethics of all that, like all these things I'd have never considered. Just take so many things in the world just for granted. Like, it's just something that happens. I don't need to think about. There is like a lot to consider there on the corruption that exists.
Whenever there's money involved, there's always opportunity for corruption. So it does, I guess it's good for people to wonder and look into the behind the sthscenes of who's making the decisions. Very interesting.
I was curious how much they made when they won. In my head, it was like a very inflated, and it's a lot of money. I thought it was going to be life-changing. It's $15,000. In my head, I was thinking closer to like 50 or like 100. I mean, 15, like that's, I would expect it to be more.
I don't think that's enough. Has that changed? I mean, like, I wonder what the trajectory of that, because these are the writers of our time.
Yeah.
They need to be compensated so that they continue having the flexibility to use their time to write amazing work.
Yeah.
That's like, you can't even get health insurance for a year for $15,000.
True. I wonder how much they end up making just like off of the publicity too.
That's true. They do help that.
Yeah, so it says, while the monetary award is relatively modest, winning a Pulitzer can have a massive lucrative impact on an author or publication's career. So then it was talking about having that massive surge in book sales, significantly increasing the royalties, and also gaining the prestige from winning the award. So it could be like a marketing tool that will drive subscriptions, donor funding, and consulting opportunities, which I didn't even think of the consulting. But I feel like that would pay big bucks. Like, somebody can afford to hire a Pulitzer winner to give like feedback or instruction, I'm sure they'd want to do that. So the award itself, modest in the scheme of things, but I bet it ends up having like a life-changing effect.
Definitely.
That's crazy. So at the beginning of the episode, I was talking a little bit about how I've never really sought out reading a Pulitzer Prize book, which now I'm going to now that I've learned about it. But as a child, what I would seek out were the Newberry Awards, the ones with the little circular emblems. If I saw that on a book, I was like, it's home with me. And I don't know why that hasn't translated to my adult reading, but I loved the Newberry Prize books, and I feel like I still do. Like, if I'm ever going to revisit a childhood book, it's got that little emblem on it.
I do remember the emblem. What are some books though that do you have a list of any?
Yeah. So, Charlotte's Web, Because of Winn-Dixie, Hatchet, Ramona Quimby, a few of the Ramona books actually, Princess Academy, which I just brought back.
So that perfect.
That reminded me. Al Capone Does My Shirts. I don't know if you ever read that one.
No, I hadn't.
That one I loved when I was little. It was about a little boy, I don't remember. It was about a little kid whose dad worked at Alcatraz, and he would like try to get notes to Al Capone through, because the dad worked in like the laundry facilities, and so did Al Capone. And that book like dazzled me as a child.
I never heard of that one. All the others I have read. I think every single one that you listed.
But
that one I hadn't.
I was obsessed with those. And when I'd go to the library with my mom as a kid, she'd be like, okay, you're getting 6 books and no more. So I didn't want to waste one. So if I could like not decide on the last one, if it had the gold emblem was the winner and the silver one were like the honors, I didn't care. Gold or silver emblem. I'm like, okay, we'll take this one. That was my tiebreaker.
I love that.
Yeah, but I was kind of looking into the establishment of that too. And that started in 1922. And it wasn't made by John Newberry, but it was named after him. He was like one of the leaders in getting children's publishing and like he advocating for kids reading, which is like so cool.
Yeah.
And then when I was looking into like previous winners, one thing I noted, because this started in 1922, so many of like the very early winners and early nominees were women, which surprised me because I feel like women were not getting, what they deserved back then. They weren't getting the recognition or the prestige. So then I was kind of like deep diving into like women as authors and like how that was perceived. And it's kind of frustrating because it was like women were actively discouraged from writing adult literature. So like all of these very gifted, talented authors started writing children's literature, which like I feel bad for them that they weren't getting the recognition they deserved in adult literature. But like how wonderful for like all of the generations of kids who got to like,
who benefited from,
like, grew up from.
Yeah.
I almost feel like that's more impactful. Like when I'm looking back on it, like I am so much more like impacted by the books I read growing up, I feel like, than I am. There are a few exceptions as an adult, but like I feel like the books I read as a child shaped me into who I am.
Yeah.
Like at like the most formative time of my life. So I feel bad for them, but I'm also like, wow, that's amazing.
That is so interesting to know.
Yeah. I'm not used to like if you're looking at anything old, like as far as awards or recognitions go, seeing as many women as I did.
Yeah.
It's like every year had at least a woman nominee, oftentimes a woman who won. And you just don't expect that for the 1920s or 30s or 40s.
That's a really good tidbit of information. Good job.
So I was really excited about that. And some of like the most influential authors during that era. So Louisa May Alcott, Little Women, which, did you read that one as like a kid?
Yep.
I read it as a kid and thought I didn't like it. And then I reread it, still as a kid, I think when I was 18, and loved it. But my 6th grade teacher had like a little book club for like a few of us who liked to read. And that was one of the books she had us do. And I dreaded every page of it.
Oh, I wonder why.
I think in like 6th grade, maybe I just wasn't quite where I needed to be. But Beatrix Potter was another one. The Tale of Peter Rabbit. Frances Hodgson Burnett, which I know you like, with The Secret Garden. Anne of Green Gables author Lucy Maud Montgomery. Laura Ingalls Wilder. Iconic. I loved her. And then Margaret Wise Brown, whose name I didn't recognize, but she was the author of Goodnight Moon.
Classic.
What a classic. So just so many great influential women who, may have preferred to be writing adult literature, but they made the most of their opportunities that they did have. And I feel like just generations of kids are better for it.
Absolutely. It's really amazing how there are awards that recognize great work and kind of help elevate them. Because without that, who knows how far reaching some of these books would have been.
Yeah, exactly. And like just the books that I feel like shaped generations and like their time to shine thanks to these type of awards. I don't know like when they started becoming as recognized, and did it hold as much weight as today? Probably not quite, but like maybe back in the 1940s or 50s. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But the Newberry Prize, that one was like my golden ticket to like, I'm going to get that book.
Yeah. And they were good though with the memorable stamps.
Nice little stamp on there. And I loved it because sometimes they were printed, but sometimes they were embossed. And I loved if I could find a book where it was like embossed on there and like textured.
Love embossed.
I feel like I need to like start building my children's book library up because I don't have children's books, but I need to go maybe find a few of my old favorites.
Well, we started a little bit with, and ordering from thrift books is really nice because you can find like old editions and stuff, which is even cooler, I think.
Yeah, definitely. My all-time favorite book from my childhood, The Princess Academy, won or was honored. I'm going to grab it really fast. Silver emblem just means that it was an honoree and it did not win, but I do think it probably deserved to win.
Yeah.
It was so good. Even rereading it as a 3-year-old, just very, very good.
I'm excited to read that.
I hope you love it as much as I did.
Yeah.
Like as an adult, I am aware like nostalgia plays a part. Like remembering like certain things and like how I felt about it as like a 6th grader reading it. It's so great. Like I feel like it was very healing rereading something from my childhood that I loved so much. So I hadn't really done that.
Yeah. I love that. The Booker Prize is one that I feel like I see and hear about a lot, I think that's just because of the type of books that we read, because it's more focused on literary fiction, so very specific. But I feel like they have quite a presence online. They're good at getting like celebrities and stuff involved, Sarah Jessica Parker and whatnot. But outside of that, there aren't really any others that come to mind. But I think that it's great that there are those institutions that exist and help curate what the general public is reading in a good way.
I know, and it's got like such a big impact on society without like even realizing it.
Yeah,
or maybe I'm sure they do, but I didn't realize it. But
so maybe we'll pay attention a little more to these and kind of try to stay up to date with those.
Yeah, I definitely will be. Big on the awards all of a sudden, just after last night.
Yeah.
Big 180. If you have read any Pulitzer Prize, or if you had a favorite childhood Newberry Prize, I feel like I'm even more interested in that, because I'm sure I've probably read that too. Mm-hmm. So share it in your comments, or in our comments if you wanna.
Yeah. Otherwise, I feel like this was a nice little episode. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Diving into.
Appreciate all of your research. And we'll be back with a dedicated book discussion next week. And go on from there.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to Facts and Fictions. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're new here, let us tell you a little bit about what we do. We publish new episodes every Sunday, and we've got 3 kinds of episodes to keep things interesting. First up, we have our book discussions, where we do a deep dive into one specific book. So if you really love digging into a read, those are for you. Then there are our brief encounters, where we tackle short form writing. Think magazine articles, Substack essays, things like that. Usually centered around a theme or topic we've been thinking about. Finally, we've got Overdue for a Chat. These are our most laid-back episodes. No reading required, we just hang out and talk about all things books. New releases, book-to-movie adaptation news, what's on our TBR, all of it. So whatever kind of reader you are, there's something here for you. Make sure you hit subscribe or follow so you don't miss a thing. We will see you next Sunday. Until then, happy reading.